everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Dance Talk Realness, a podcast where we discuss all nuances concerning education and dance, because a dance experience is an experience worth talking about. I'm your host, Truly B, here with my awesome as always co-host, Daryl P.
Hey.
And today we are joined by the lovely, the wonderful, the immaculate Ariana Matthews.
Yeah.
Hey! Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's just jump straight in. Give our audience just some background on you, your dance journey, what has led you to where you are today.
Awesome. So I'll try and keep it as brief as possible.
Girl, take your time. We got time. We here for you.
So again, my name is Ariana Matthews. I am 25 years old. I like to consider myself kind of a fresh 25, still in that good middle age of all the good things. This is my 4th year as a dance teacher with Anne Arundel County Public Schools. But going back, I did the typical start ballet when you're 3, test it out. I took a break for a little bit, began training formally at a studio when I was 10. I actually went to Artistic Dance Academy in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, under the direction of Cindy King. From there, I danced all through middle school, pretty much all through high school until I joined my dance company, so the Southern High School Dance Company. And I think it was that moment that really kind of told me, like, dance is going to be your thing. You're going to follow it. You're going to do great things. I had my teacher and now mentor, who was just a great inspiration for me, looked like me, talked like me, was a constant support, and just kind of like helped me navigate everything related to college dance, the professional world, education. And so after my 4 years at Mason, I was able to come home, take a long-term sub position for her at my old high school, and then eventually just made my way into the system. And here I am now.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's like almost like dream story. That's like, yes, things fall into place.
Yes.
All right. So we have you in today because I've known you for a few years now. And I noticed on social media that there was this brief moment of time that there was a post that was like, everything's now gone. Updates are coming. Rebrand. And I'm like, sis, ooh, what's about to happen? And then it has now made a shift into what seems to be a more dance focus and more focus on you as a dance artist. So take us through the thought process of we in the middle of this hair pandemic and you're like, you know what, let's rebrand. Like, let's take this moment.
Absolutely. So again, going back a little bit, the dance page that you knew, I guess when we first met, I also gave you that. And it was focused on what is Miss Matthews doing, not so much Ariana. So it was always what's going on in the classroom. What do my assessments look like? What do the kids, really enjoy doing? And then as time has gone on, especially now over these last 11 months with the pandemic, I find myself incredibly stressed out with work, unhappy with the way kids are engaging in movement, and just how I feel as an artist. I just feel like I haven't danced and moved. So like you said, I stripped everything off of the page, and I took about 2 hours one night kind of just writing out, like, who am I as a dancer? What are those 4, I call them like pillars. What are those 4 pillars that I really want to kind of put out into the universe that says, hey, this is Ariana. So with this rebrand, I want to focus a lot on just representation in dance, because I felt that, and still feel, that's something that is an issue, especially just as we see these Black and African-American artists coming up. I think it's important that it trickles down and starts at a younger age. So representation, body image and confidence. I can't speak for anybody else, but since quarantine has started, I've gained about 30 pounds. And some days I'm like, oh, this is bomb. And other days I'm like, because now I can't get the leg up. So really just focusing on how to balance that. Of course, my choreography process, that can be super interesting. And then again, just how I move. So getting tips from other dancers on really making choreography and how to improve your improv and get these kind of signature steps. So I'm hoping that just by sharing everything that I feel in the moment will inspire someone else to, want to learn from me, want to work together, and just do great things for the dance world right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I do want to say that first initial wipe was like the epitome of F these kids. And child, I about hollered because I was like, ooh. But at the end of the day, it does still end up circling back around to the kids and really making sure that not only they are receiving quality, but they know who they're receiving that quality education from. Mm-hmm. And also, like you said, that representation of knowing that someone that looks just like me, someone that's built just like me is out here doing this thing that I want to do. So I know it's possible.
Yes.
And even though, obviously it's possible when there's no one doing it, and that can be a certain drive. Mm-hmm. When you have grown up not having representation, you really have a deeper understanding of just how important it is. Yeah. And I know, at least for us, because I want to say, from what I've seen, for the younger ones, they have way more things that they can see now where they can see themselves in those places. But for us, it was like,
I didn't have much.
I hope somebody out there look like me, but if not, I guess I'm still just going to show up.
Right.
Like, hope for the best.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, because I find that, sometimes, and Truly and I have had this conversation about how people within our building still ask us the infamous question of, so you actually are out dancing with the kids every day, like with a smile. Like, so like you really, so y'all really out there dancing with them. And I think that it's just so crazy to think that, like, yes, I am a dance teacher. Yes. But everything that I show them and do, I have done and do myself and still do. And I think still do. Right. And I think that that's the thing that people maybe see us as these dance teachers, but like, oh, you don't do that anymore. Clearly you just have the kids get up and you kind of direct them how you want them. But it's like, they get that direction because I'm showing them more times than my body wants to show them, but I'm still showing them though. Like, you only going to get this move one time.
One time. One full out. After that, I'm marking this.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So no, I think that's awesome. Even just for yourself, just to know, like, I am still that person, because I feel like there's, when you've done this for, now 13, some of the people have been out there 20 years, 25 years. Sometimes you just lose the artist in yourself. And I think it's important to always keep that, because yes, I'm an educator, I'm teaching the future, but I myself am still an artist.
Absolutely. An artist and a student. Like, I feel like even though I'm not in school myself and like doing all these great programs, I'm still learning every day from colleagues like you all, professional developments, like live recordings and teachings. And it's so nice to just be able to take all of that and like put it together with what we already have, and just, again, like filter it down and make it matter for everyone, but especially those that, we really want to push a little further.
Yes, for sure. And I know something that has always been slightly shady sentence, but interesting to me is for those who, I don't know if it's willingly or begrudgingly, but that let go of that artist part and allow themselves to be consumed by the teaching, which is easy to do. It is easy to kind of get sucked in because you get bogged down with all the red tape, with all the paperwork, with having to contact parents. But I know something that for me was very important, caused a lot of issues. I didn't care. Was that I was like, but I'm still a working artist. Like, I am still choreographing. I am still performing. Like, now it's more so choreographing because I'm like, the way my knees are set up, sis.
Yes.
No, thank you. I will choreograph for you all day though. But I'm like, I'm still actively participating in this field. And for me, a huge part of that was, if I'm still in touch with the field and I'm still staying involved, then that's just another way to have more opportunities for my kids.
Yes.
And I know Daryl and I, we talked about this before. I'm not sure if we did it on an episode, but like with me moving up out of K-12 and into higher ed, I still 100% am like full intentions of going back into the school system specifically to recruit these kids. Like, I was like, oh no, I'm not done helping them. I'm just not in that classroom setting. I'm not done. So now you see there's more of us higher ed. Now you're seeing that it is possible because they 100%, first of all, really be thinking that you cannot major in dance in college. And I'm like,
that's a whole other.
I'm like, y'all, I was like, that's literally all my degrees are in. I'm like, that's how I got this job. Like, that's like dance education and dance. Like, that's all I got. I'm like, yeah, but you can though. And I'm like, you can also, if you choose, major in something else, you can double major, you can minor. I'm like, there are so many options and they don't know because no one is really reaching back to them to let them know. We touched on this before, like the reason recruiting to me is so important is because how else they gonna find out? Like, if we don't tell them, how else will they know?
Right.
And it's the same with the teachers, that as a high school teacher, if I didn't know that program existed, I didn't know to tell my kids to look into it.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, my goal now is, okay, now we are establishing this program. I'm gonna be in everybody's building. Like, hey, how you doing? Okay, we have this workshop coming up. You want to come? Hey, we have this audition coming up. You should come out. Like, I'm gonna be in folks' face because why not give them all the opportunities possible? And I mean, if they take it or they don't, that is on them at that point. But it won't be said that it wasn't offered.
Right.
And for the teachers, it gives them another avenue to have like another connection as someone else to bring in to talk about collegiate level and really break down how dance works at that level. So it's beneficial to so many more people than just yourself when you choose to focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into that idea of how do you pour into someone else when you're empty? So we have to take that time to really, and if the artist, like performing artist part is not for you, then I'm not saying that everyone who's teaching should also still be performing or choreographing. It's not that. But if that's not your calling, then, you know, maybe open your circle so you know you have people in it that is theirs, and they can come in and help hold and facilitate those conversations for students also. It just always comes back to this will benefit the kids. This will set them on the path. And vicariously, that will keep our field alive.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, and it just left my mind.
That happens to me. Like, I was thinking great things.
Oh, okay. It came back. So speaking about like, you know, this idea of like keeping that artistry, right? Even though you're an educator, and really trying to make sure you hold those. Sometimes I feel like, and truly you and I both have talked about this a number of times, about how we feel like that kind of starts to pull apart in college. Those the different tracks, right? You're either an education track or you're the choreography and performance track, right? And so you get these educators who don't get to fill that artistry bucket, right? And so like then it's like, well, where do you get fed in that way? And then you have these artists, choreographers, performers who don't get that educational. Then those people realize, oh wait, I can't keep performing until I'm 35. I'm gonna need another job. So then they go into the education, and it's like they're not great educators.
So I want to speak on that just because, like, okay, so I'm not gonna name drop just yet.
Okay.
But
it's all right. It's all right.
It's okay. We are always really, sometimes we slip up from time to time. We're just like, well, we did it. We did it.
Look, just don't say nothing that's gonna get you in trouble or lose a job.
Right.
Don't say those things.
I'm gonna say I'm not gonna name drop places just yet, but if you figured out, you figured out. So I chose my university based on the fact that when I went to a visit, I was told they had this great K through 12 dance education program. It would transfer from Virginia to Maryland, Maryland to Virginia, like pretty much any state I wanted to go. So I'm like, awesome. They were also ranked pretty high as far as like performance opportunities, choreographic opportunities, all the stuff you want when you're a 17-year-old incoming freshman. So I get there on this high horse. There might be about 2 other people in my class who look like me. There is no faculty that looks like me. And for some odd reason, I'm just now finding out that the education track doesn't take place until second semester junior year. And you have to have at least 7 people interested to do it. So I've now gone to this college, spent all my parents' money, done all this stuff, and can't even do the education track, which is what I really wanted. So now I'm feeling like less of a dancer because I'm here not doing what I really want. I don't look like everyone else. I don't dance like everyone else. I'm in a class of 33 and kind of being pushed to the side. And now I kind of get shaded in a way because I took the education route rather than the performance route, thinking that I'd maybe have the opportunity to do both. And that's always like a tough pill to swallow when some of your kids ask, well, did you enjoy college? And like, how was your dance program? Let's chat later. And it really sucks to have to make that, to make that decision when you either want to do both or you want to do the one and feel great about it, but then you have no external support. It's just, you're kind of on your own.
Very similar experience. I've shared it here before. 100% got reamed out because I changed from performance to education track because I was just like, okay, if I'm good enough for the gig, I'm good enough for the gig. I was like, but to teach, I'm gonna need to have some things in place or I'm not gonna be able to keep that job. And I already had my oldest. He was 1 when I started. And so I was like, yeah, no, but health insurance. So we're going to do this education track real quick because health insurance. And I remember it being a whole thing. I remember the few of us who were doing, because it was only about 7 of us doing education to be out that whole dance part of the school, about 7. And we wanted to do the choreography concert with everyone. And we were told no, because education, that's not the focus of education. And I was like, well, that sounds dumb. So we said, fine, we'll put on our own. And they did everything they could to discourage it. They tried to pull, like, our dancers, they would try to reschedule their rehearsals to conflict with what we said we did. Now, we made our schedules based off of theirs. They were like, okay, we know that you're doing this with this professor and this with this one, so don't worry about it. We'll do it this time. So that way it's not a conflict. And then they would change rehearsal schedules. And so ended up still having the show. It was great. It went well. And then people wanted to claim us. And we're like, no. You put every roadblock up that you could. Please don't. Like, we're proud of ourselves for making this happen. We kind of just don't need you. Then the infamous having a professor tell you, like a professor says out their own mouth, those who can do and those who can't teach. I said, sis, what?
No.
I was like, not with you being the whole teacher in this moment. Like, what? I was like, not with you, and not even a teacher who couldn't do the things. I was like, but you do the things, so that means that you can do. Right. And my argument was, but if I can't do it, do I have any business teaching it? Like, I don't math well. Should I be teaching it? Not at all. Mm-mm. For that exact reason. So it was mind-boggling that it was such a break. And I'm not saying that you can't have or shouldn't have a concentration, because it does help to like have a very clear focus track.
Agreed.
But to completely divide those two is detrimental to the field. Because first of all, we 100% need educators who know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And when you transition from performing into education, might need you to be able to teach, might need you to be able to. Just because you can do 32 fouettes doesn't mean you can teach somebody else how to. I need you to know how to teach. Yeah. Not just say, do this, but actually break it down, give them the mechanics, explain the why, tell them the history, let them be informed. And then it's on them. They take the information, they have to work on embodying it. But if you don't know how to help them make those connections, we're all wasting time. And they're not going to. Right. It's going to be tragic.
Yeah. And I see that in some of the young teachers in my county that are they're beautiful dancers, right? But I think they struggle with, and they probably have just grown up. They maybe grew up in a studio, grew up working in, and then as an adult have worked in studios where the caliber of dancing is, great. But when you're working in a public school where someone is like, I didn't really sign up for this class, right? How do you then turn on that, like, okay, but you're here. Yes. And we're both here. And so we're going to make this work, right? And sometimes that could be really like that. It can just change your whole focus, right? When you love to dance, when you've taught nothing but perfection, and you come in and you're like, why are you not perfect yet, right? And I think when you can teach that, like, 2 left feet to be like, oh my God, you know how to step touch on the beat. Perfect. Yes. I have done my job. But, I think that, I think that it's important to allow those people those opportunities to learn to teach, right? And I think our experience teaching, because you're not going to always, like you said, you can do those 32 fouette turns. How are you going to teach somebody how to point their toe properly? How are you going to teach someone how to turn out?
Yeah.
Ooh,
right? Because you can't just say turn out and then they're just like done. You got to break that down.
That's the question, So how do you recover and move forward from that? I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It then raises the question for me that I will pose to the two of you. So when we look at this idea of, I'm just going to keep saying rebranding because I like it, it's fancy. So when we look at that and we look at, let's take education, we're all educators, education as quote unquote a whole. Do you think that it would be beneficial for there to be not only more like PDs that are geared specifically to dance? Because yes, the answer is always yes to that. Like, yes, please give us more things that are important to us because that's what we teach. But more professional developments that specifically call in experienced, highly qualified dance educators to talk about and really give even more tools to put into your toolbox on teaching dance, because some of the PDs are about teaching, but some of the stuff they suggest is like, yeah, but I don't think that that's going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start, Daryl, or you want me to start?
Go for it. Dive in.
So the answer is yes. We need more, and we need more from those who are still in the classroom. So this may come off a little bit shady, like you said earlier.
Do it.
I can't learn and really take constructive criticism from someone who just sits in the office or in an office and pops in 2 times a year and goes, well, Truly's trying this at her school and I think it'll work. And I'm also going to see Daryl when I'm done, and I'm going to let him know. Okay, well, how about the 3 of us have different populations? We've been teaching consistently
Say a word
for the last couple of years. So you need to help me, feed me with those who have been in this, been with these populations, been in this environment in the last 6 months to a year, and have actually maybe even tried some of the things I'm trying or some of the things you're saying and done some self-reflection. So let me into a space for 8 hours. Let me move. Let me talk to those who are like me. And then let's just keep on meeting up. But like hearing about how to use technology and addressing racial trauma, because these are all the things that we're currently doing right now, that's not helping me get little Truly and little Daryl dressed for class and asking me if we can switch to cooking.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Facts.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and I think that has always been that's always been kind of my curiosity too, is like how far removed certain people are from the classroom, yet they are the ones who are supposed to be giving the advice and are the experts, right? And I think, right, I never want to like discredit anybody who has gone through the most. I mean, you've gotten those admin certifications, you've done the work, maybe there's research that you've done that I've not done on, learning styles and classroom management and all this other stuff, right? But it's like at the end of the day, like I feel like like you said, I think the professional development that I need is always continuing to work with the population that I currently have. And I think that sometimes doesn't come from, even if you found a school that had the same demographics that I had, it's still, yes, that gives me a better idea of like what some people are doing and what works. But once again, those are still not my students. That's still not our school. And so you really have to gear that kind of professional development towards just like locally, right? And I think it would be beneficial. Like when you said that, it was like, wow, I wonder why on these PD days, like, do they not just allow us opportunities just to talk as a county with the dance teachers, right? Like, so instead of us always talking about rigor and relevance, and why am I reading this example of this like letter to a student, and I could be working with my dance teachers about how we're doing rigor and relevance just in movement, right? Like that would be way more beneficial. But the other thing is that I go on a soapbox about this, but there just really is no unity, I feel like, sometimes within the system, like between schools, and I think all that just, anyhow.
Yeah, no, agreed. Agreed wholeheartedly. There was something I always really, as much as other people would complain, I always loved the beginning of the year meetings where it was just us.
Yeah.
And we could like really just talk about and hash out dance specific things for our classrooms. And like you both were saying, like, yeah, obviously my population is going to be different from yours, going to be different from yours. But if I know you have a similar one, then maybe there's something I can pull from that, or at least get some inspiration to try something new. I was always good for I wanted to know what high school teachers were doing when I was teaching middle school. That was what I was interested in.
Yes.
And then when I started teaching high school, I was like, okay, who are the teachers that maintain like strong connections with like colleges and companies? Like, I need a connection with somebody who can really give me ideas and help me push to make sure the kids are ready to go to the next place. And I always hated that there was never like a end of the year. I think, well, I actually didn't hate it. Let me back that sentence up. That's not a true statement, because by the end of the year, everyone's done. We're just like, I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to talk about in school, anything. But there should have been more opportunities like that throughout. I know in in PG that they eventually, like the last 2 years I was there is when it started, I think, having the mentors, mentees. Transparency. I was 100% a mentor. Trash. Pure trash. Now, to be fair, it was not intentional. But I had like 2 other mentees, not in the county. Amazing mentor to them though. And so I was like, it was the third one that I just kind of dropped that ball. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't drop the ball that's in the county with me. But it's fine. And this was the thing that got me, which I think should be taken into consideration when we're trying to do these collabs. Now that you can't learn from everyone, but I think you should also take into account how people are, what their interests are, and let that also play a role in some of the pairing. The pairing, we just didn't click at all. Like, we just didn't match. And it wasn't like I can't speak for her, but I know for me, I ain't had no issue with her. I 100% taught that population because that was one of my feeders. So I was like, oh, no. I know what you teach. I taught the other one that feeds it. I was like, oh no, it's all about the same. Okay. These are some things you can try. I know what it's like when you have admin that's like this, but I am also one who I'm like, so I'm not going to contact you for real. If you need me, let me know. If you have questions, I'll answer them. I'll do whatever I can, but I'm not going to hound you because that annoys me. So I don't like doing it to other people. But if I have a question for you, then I'm like, hey, Ariana, quick question. When you had this situation, what'd you do? Like, okay, Daryl, when you were working on your show and this problem came up, how did you handle that? Because I'm having a similar issue. But I wouldn't expect you, nor would I want you to like every day, every few days, every week be checking in on me. I'm like, motherfucker, we grown. Yeah. I will ask you when I got a question. Like, I got it. Like, let me figure this out. Yeah, I'll ask you. And so I don't know that that's how she was though, because she never really asked me anything. And I was like, I will be chilling until you ask. And so it just wasn't a match. But then my other 2 were like very much like, truly.
Let me get
question. Question. And I'm like, yeah, cool, no problem. So I think when we're looking also at the pairing off or the collaborative conversations, that should be taken into account. Also, what types of goals, because sometimes it may not even be that they can provide feedback on population, but they may have accomplished a similar goal that you're trying to. And even if you can't do it exactly the way they did it, just being able to hear, okay, well, this was successful. Okay, how can I tweak that to fit my kids? Because no one's going to know your kids like you, especially people who ain't never there. So we always know our kids better. And we know what works, what doesn't work. We know what can fly in our building, what can't fly. I always use Jackie as the example. Child, she could get away with some stuff that for the life of me, I never could figure out how I could ever get away with it. I could never figure it out. And I'm like, even when I had like the kids were on board, the parents were on board, I was like, there is no way I can sell that administration on this. Like, I will lose my whole job. And Jackie was out here and it was always amazing. But I was like, how? And so talking to her about stuff is how I was better able to get parents and students on board so I could push a little bit more. But child, look, we never figured out that admin thing. I was like,
that's
like that's its own beast right there. But it 100% is so important for those connections to be able to happen. And I think, especially with the younger teachers that don't have as much teaching experience, that could help bridge the gap, because unfortunately, I think a lot of people are still kind of taught to keep it separate, performance and education.
I have to agree.
Yeah. So if unfortunate to say it this way, but I don't see higher ed fixing that problem no time soon. Just from the little bit I've seen, just the little bit I've been in it. I'm like, oh, y'all really be about this how we do this how we've been doing it. It's like, is that working though? Because if it's not working, we should maybe reconsider. But it might end up falling to us in the trenches to be like, okay, like, Dara, I know you're an amazing dancer, but this teaching though, let me give you some things that you can use. And it's not a try to be a cookie cutter, but like, here's some tools, try these. If that don't work out, let me know. I have some other stuff you can try, but try this. We need to bring that back together. And it may take people who have already matriculated through the programs, who can see the issue with it being separated, to be the ones to start pulling it back in order for it to trickle back up to higher ed and such.
I agree.
Yeah, because they really don't be about it.
No,
they really are about this. You pick a side, and it's like, but I want to do both.
Like, I just wonder. I almost feel like, so I say this, but then I'm also like, the whole generational thing. I feel like it'll take maybe like one more generation to break that stigma of the separation. But like you said, I think if we start now, and then we can have these conversations like middle to high school with feeders, and high schools to even like maybe these community colleges that have great relationships with major universities. Like, I think that plays a huge role in all this stuff. And like, it's just, we gotta do this because we just have to. We just have to.
I definitely think there's just, I'm always just impressed. I grew up in Texas and started teaching in Texas, where like, dance in high school is a huge thing. But 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. I mean, it does sometimes go beyond that, because there's several colleges that have like pom squads or drill teams and whatnot that are on campuses and whatnot. But I would say it's definitely more on the education side and not so much on the artistic side. And I think that when you do go the artistic side, it's like you turn your nose up at those that are like, oh, your education, and that's kind of like, but I think it's so interesting here that there are so many community colleges that have dance programs
and great dance programs.
Yes, and great dance programs that I'm sometimes I'm disappointed that they don't reach out as much to us to like, hey, let us perform at your spring concert, right? Like, just in case because I mean, it's always hard for my students to get places, but if you can get these college kids, oh yeah, come. I will gladly put a spot in here for you all to come and perform for us. I think the community would love to see it. My students would love to see it.
I'm writing this down because I'm going to go ahead and give it to somebody and say, make sure my name goes on it, make sure Daryl's name goes on it, make sure Truly's name goes on it, because that needs to happen.
Literally.
And then invite, and then if whenever we're back to normal or in person, invite us. Or you know what? Since we're all virtual, send me a video of something that you've done this year. and let me put it in so that way the students can still see that, hey, there are college students who are doing dance that are still doing dance from their home.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
100% agree with that. Yep. Write that down.
Yeah.
It's like I want to flip a table. Like I just don't understand why people don't do these things. And I'm like I told the spouse the other night, I was like, look, they don't pay me enough yet to do this because I'm smooth on adjunct pay at each institution. So I'm at I don't think I told you, Ariana, I'm at 3 different institutions, 2 universities and 1 community college. So
no way.
Adjunct at all 3. And I'm just like, y'all don't pay me enough for me to do that work.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm telling you though is hire me full time.
Yes.
Let me tell you what I'll do for you. Recruit.
Yes.
I'ma be in somebody's face all the time. Like I'm actually high key doing that at one of them for free. I was like, y'all better be thankful for this free labor. You better hire me for real. Like stop playing.
They need. And I think that is a great tool. Honestly, I think this is my dream job just because like location, pay, responsibilities. I would love to be like on faculty at our community college, but then be the one who's in charge of like hosting the dance major for a day program where we get juniors and seniors to come and take classes with the dance majors. Like literally they do their whole schedule on a Friday. They get to have a Q&A at the start of the day, at the end of the day. I would love to be a part of something like that where I'm able to educate you on all the education that I'm giving, teach you, get to choreograph for you. You get to see things that I've done and just show you why this kind of stuff is important and why it matters.
Yes.
Dance is important. The arts are important in general. But I think for, again, kind of jumping back to the population thing, it matters more when it comes from people that look like you, that sound like you. I mean, 90% of my kids look like me. They lose their mind when I walk in and I have my hair done or when I pop on the screen and they're, Miss Matthews. Like, okay, relax. And like that little bit of stuff is so important because I know that they're invested in me and now I have their attention. So like, okay, truly, I know you don't really want to do pliés today, but if you give me 2 good ones, I'm going to leave you alone. And then now we have that relationship where they can come to me and I can give them more than maybe what anybody else has ever given them. And that's all I'm trying to do. But
yes, that connection, first of all, is so hilarious when they are that invested.
Yes.
And when I tell you it continues in high school.
Oh, I know.
Continues in college because they smooth. They're like, that's professor. And I was like, y'all better shut up. Come on, we got a lesson to do. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, but I know, right? Hey. All right, but for real, y'all, come on. We do need to start though. And it's just because you can see and feel the excitement that they like a connection. And then once you have that, then you're like, okay, now let me really try to reel you in. And that's how like some of my best dancers that I ever had, that's how I got them. Did they start off already having perfect technique? Not at all. In fact, all of my, like the ones who really like went out and like do the thing weren't dancers prior to, might have taken 1 or 2 classes, but it was that connection. They saw that it was possible. And then they saw that somebody cared enough to really be like, hey, here's an opportunity coming up. You should go audition for that. Or, hey, there's this show coming. You want to go see this? Before it was like real illegal. I used to like take kids on like random field trips. I don't work for them no more, so it's fine. So we used to like, we would meet up at Metro Station by PG Plaza. Or what is it? The mall at Prince George's now. That's the new, okay.
Gorgeous.
Over there. Get on the Metro, go to DC and go see a show. And then we might go like grab some dinner and like, then we discuss it. We went to the museum one time and I'm like, just taking them out here because there was a dance exhibit. And then we ended up just wandering the whole museum.
Mm.
And then we went to Five Guys and sat up in Five Guys talking about everything we had seen.
I love that.
At the museum. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you kind of can't do that now. Fair. But once it really got like legit illegal, I was like, all right, so y'all, there's this show on this date. If you happen to see me there, then you saw me there. Yeah. But this ain't a field trip though. Right. But if you see me there, I'll be there from 3 to 7. I'm dead. Hear me what I say. I'll be there from this time. If you see me, I'll speak. We might walk together. Not a field trip, though.
Not a field trip.
It's not a field trip, though. Like, I'm not responsible for you. I'm like, your mama can come too. Right. But if your mama drops you off, tell her to wave so I know she sees me. Yeah. It's not a field trip, though. I love that. We're just here together. Oh, I was good for it. That's, oh my God, like my oldest babies, I gotta get them on. I keep saying it and I keep not scheduling it, but their schedules are all over the place. They used to play Tetris in my truck because if I didn't make sure they got to the performance, they weren't gonna go. Nobody else was gonna take them. There was no school transportation. Parents weren't gonna take them. Parents didn't even think that parents wouldn't even come to some of the concerts, some of them.
Right.
So they didn't see dance as a viable, real thing that they were doing. So I'm like, if I don't make sure you get here, you're not going to be able to go. So come on. Yeah. And it was, again, this was before it got real illegal. And so like, for that, I did get like a sign slip from the parents saying, okay, I acknowledge that I'm giving you permission to do this. And that was like, admin at the time, like accepted that letter. Yeah, it was like maybe a year or two before craziness really hit the fan. Mm-hmm. To the point where whenever, because that was my child who had us up at the Diagon showcase, middle of the night, waiting for their ride. And I'm like, it's cold. I'm getting in my truck. Mm-hmm. And that poor baby had to stand outside in the cold because I couldn't let her in. And I'm like, if I could, I would. However, I'm also not about to freeze. So sis, I'm gonna cut my lights on though so I can see you. And that for me was horrible. But I understood that some horrible people did horrible things and they ruined it for those who aren't even like that.
Right.
But prior to it being extra locked down, I made sure like I would go buy them things personally. Yep. I took them to the store if they needed to go. Took them wherever we were heading to, any performance, any field trip. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, no, we're gonna get there because I want you to see what's possible. And one of them now be traveling all over the doggone place, performing in videos here, choreographing for this person here. And I'm like,
I love that.
And I always tell her, I was like, I don't want credit. I don't want money. I was like, just keep me posted. Because just seeing all the stuff you get to do, I'm just like, oh, my baby. Right. And like, I do that for all of them. And like one of them, like my hair, that I'm like, yes, it's cute. One of my former students that I'm like, yes, I teach dance, but we teach so much more than that.
I'm more than that.
So much more. And there was so much that she learned in class that she was able to apply into her starting her own businesses, of which this is one. And so sis, if you want her information, I got you. So just to be clear.
Thank you.
To be clear. So it's like just being able, if I weren't I'm gonna say it like that. If I weren't a great educator, mm-hmm. all of those things would not have happened. And all of those opportunities wouldn't have been presented.
Yep.
I would not have been able to reach them the way I did. I would not have been able to reach and maintain those connections the way I did. Because yes, they get excited when they know you perform and you do things. It wears off.
Yes.
At some point, they're just like, okay, I know you had a show. Okay, what's that got to do with me? Why am I still invested? And if you don't have that connection,
right.
Which I think helps with the teaching that, maybe not the paperwork side of it, but all of the great teachers I've ever had knew how to connect.
Right.
Same. And that is important, especially right now. Like, it's just important to show also like the real you. Like, yes, you have to be professional in your professional settings, but every once in a while I have to show these kids Ariana if it's gonna
say it.
if it's gonna reel them in. And
Right.
also that was another reason for the whole rebrand. Like, you know, I made my TikToks and I posted my TikToks on the page, and you know, a lot of my followers were the middle schoolers and the high schoolers that I had, which I'm like, great, like you're still so invested in my life, but now let me show you what else I do when I'm not your teacher. So that way you can see it's possible, like it's available, it's important.
Right.
And that's, I don't know, it's just, I hate to do the whole cliche, but like life is too short. Do what you want to do, learn something new, teach something new. It's like now's the time, and you're going to get judged regardless.
Facts.
Whether you do it or you don't. So that was that's something else that I'm kind of wrestling with. Like, just do it and post it. Who cares? Like, people are going to talk about me if I do it, if I don't, what it looks like, what it doesn't look like. So just, if it matters to you, just do it. And
yeah, wholeheartedly. And I think that is the perfect ending note for this, because like at the end of the day, they're gonna talk regardless. So do what it is that you want to do safely though, because we don't mean go out there be crazy in these streets. But so thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Yes, we loved having you. We're gonna have to kidnap you again. We're gonna have a part 2. We're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you all for joining us here at Dance Talk Realness yet again. If you have any questions for us or questions for our guests, feel free to drop us a line. Follow us where you can follow us. You know how I am.
The deal. Yeah.
Like y'all know the routine.
Y'all know where to find.
Get in where you fit in. Like, comment, follow, subscribe, all that jazz. And we look forward to bringing you some fresh new content next week. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.